We are breaking down potential contract extensions between Michael Pittman Jr. and Jonathan Taylor, two Indianapolis Colts stars. Every fan knows who they are. Wide receiver Michael Pittman and running back Jonathan Taylor are looking for some pretty nice contracts. They've been good players for the Colts, and we're going to compare both of these guys to other players that are being paid maybe at a similar pay level, maybe similar stats, that kind of stuff. And how much should they be paid? Should they be paid? Should the Colts sign Jonathan Taylor, a running back, to a big-time deal? I'd like to welcome you to the JDW Sports Talk Show, where every fan is welcome. If you enjoy Colts content, NFL content, this is a place for you. Make sure to like, subscribe, put that post notification bell on so you don't miss any future videos. Keep tuned. So, building for success, right? You gotta know how much to pay your star players, how long, how are they stacking up versus other players that are being paid for what they're being asked, all that stuff. There's a lot that goes into it. So, Michael Pittman, right? First year, you look at the stats, it's not incredible, but Michael Pittman was out a couple of weeks. He had some kind of calf injury. But Pittman has been a solid receiver for the Colts, right? Nothing to scoff at. He has over 2,500 receiving yards. I'm trying to pull up. Yeah, there we go. So, he has over 2,500 receiving yards in his career. He's been pretty good. He's like contested guy, goes up for all of them, those 50-50 balls. He's very good at going up and getting. Last year wasn't really all too impressive. He did miss one game, but still he only had 925 receiving yards, 4 receiving touchdowns for a receiver of his size, of his caliber that we thought. Not 99 catches is pretty impressive, but considering, he didn't really have the yards or, the touchdowns that we expected from him this year. Now, you look at the situation, it doesn't help. You had 3 different quarterbacks that started last year where Matt Ryan was a disaster, Nick Foles was horrible, Sam Ehlinger wasn't anything special. When you don't have a quarterback that can properly throw you the ball and you have new quarterbacks like every 4 or 5 weeks, it's difficult to get in a groove. It's really difficult to get something going. And, even besides that, a few times last year when he was open, I'm going to give you an example. In that Washington game, it was towards the end of the game, it was last drive, last chance they had. Sam Ehlinger threw up a Hail Mary to Michael Pittman. Pittman was open. There wasn't anyone right on him. They were, there's pretty good radius of openness. Pittman could have really caught the ball and maybe ran out of bounds, and they would have been at field goal range. But Pittman being quite open, he's supposed to be this guy that could go up and catch these kind of balls, but he didn't. He just flat out dropped it. Big moment. Big L. Now, prior to this year, Pittman always showed up big in primetime games and, just big moments in general. He didn't really do that this much this year, but, at the end of the day, the quarterbacks didn't. If the quarterbacks can't get the ball to him, then, how is he going to make plays? There's only so much you could do as a receiver. But, yeah, quarterback situation didn't help. But he also had fumbling issues. In the Titans game, it seemed like the game was pretty over. It was pretty much over. But once Pittman fumbled it, that kind of sealed the deal. That kind of put the nail in the coffin. So, it's just, how much do you pay a receiver that's been a solid receiver? He's had over 1,000 receiving yards once. He's had 6 touchdowns in his best year. With Carson Wentz was his best year, and it kind of makes sense because Carson Wentz just threw up the ball, and that's Pittman's game. He wants to go up and he wants to moss people. He wants to dunk on people. Last year, he just couldn't do that. Matt Ryan just didn't really throw it up deep enough for him much. Sam Ehlinger, Nick Foles, how far and how much, did they really have? There were many times where actually, you got to give him the benefit of the doubt where these quarterbacks missed Pittman when he was open as well. Paris Campbell, Alec Pierce, other receivers were open at times. These quarterbacks just weren't surveying the field at the level they needed to be at an NFL level. And, if a quarterback doesn't see a receiver open, there's nothing the receiver can do. They can wave their hands all they want. If the quarterback doesn't see them, there's nothing they can do. Now, you don't know if they would catch it or not, but, you also cannot blame the receiver for that. So here are some wide receivers that are being paid similar to what Michael Pittman is being paid. So you have Mike Evans, Cortland Sutton, and Christian Kirk are all being paid between the $15 and $18 million range, which I think is a range for Michael Pittman. Now, you may be thinking maybe 15 to 18 is a little low. Maybe 15 is a little low. But honestly, like, Pittman's been a solid receiver. He hasn't been a top 10, a great elite receiver. Now, he's been in the league for 3 years. He has one season with, he has over 1,000 yards receiving in 1 year. Now, that was a pretty good year. But you can't pay him what you think he will be. You have to pay him from what you have seen. You've seen he's been a solid receiver when on the field. If you give him a solid quarterback, really any good receiver, you give him a solid quarterback, they're going to be pretty good. They're going to get you 1,000 yards. They're going to get you at the very least 5 touchdowns. And for how run-centric the offense was last year, pretty impressive that Michael Pittman did put up that, over 1,000 receiving yards. Carson Wentz wasn't great. He had a stretch where he was very good. But you also had that I'm running with Jonathan Taylor probably 50% of the time. Probably half the time you're running with JT. So you're taking away the volume. Yeah, he still had 1,000 yards. So hopefully this year with Anthony Richardson, he could find some accuracy, which, it seems like his mechanics and stuff has been improving, which is nice to see. Hopefully Michael Pittman can take advantage of Anthony Richardson. For him just being able to throw the ball deep, just having a quarterback that can move around as well helps. Anthony Richardson's going to throw up the Pittman. We all know he's going to. He has the arm talent to throw that thing down the field, to rocket it down the field 80 yards, 60 yards, 70. He's got to rocket it. You get what I mean. So, 15 to 18 million per year, right? I think that's fair. Now, if he, these last 2 years, he had, let's say 2021. He got the volume, and last year, he had a decent quarterback. He'd probably have at least 1,200 yards in both years, honestly. Now, it kind of concerns me that he doesn't have a season with more than 6 receiving touchdowns, because we kind of expect him to be the red zone threat, to be a big receiver, go up and get it, and just kind of be a touchdown machine. It hasn't really been that. But at the end of the day, I was just talking about, you can't really... I just kind of lost my train of thought there. But another receiver that's being paid $20 million a year. That is a lot for Pittman, in my opinion. These receivers at the top 10, they're putting up big-time numbers. They've made huge impacts. Now, Pittman has made a huge impact. Don't get that twisted. He's made a big impact. I think Pittman is a similar receiver to Mike Williams. And given the right circumstances, I think Pittman can play and catch as many touchdowns as Mike Williams does. Mike Williams is a touchdown machine. And I think Michael Pittman can be the same, given the right circumstances. I think Pittman's an incredible talent. He's not an elite route runner. He's a solid route runner. Great hands. Even though last year was questionable in that category, I believe this year he's going to be better. He's going to make a comeback. Is he going to be paid before the season? I don't know. I would rather pay him before the season, before he has a wild season. Because it's very much in play. He could have a wild season. But you can't pay a player off of what you think he's going to be. You have to pay him of what he has shown you. Even the circumstances haven't been right, you still have to pay him from what he has shown you. That's my opinion on how you had to pay players. See, you see Mike Evans, Sutton, Kirk, they're paid similar to him. Mike Williams being 20, Pitt is a similar player. It's just, you can't pay him off of what you think, of how you think he will play. Contracts don't normally work out that way. Usually pretty bad. They just don't work out. So, but he just did not catch him on touchdowns that you'd expect him to catch either. He caught 4. Thing is, this was an offense that was anemic. They couldn't get anything going. They couldn't do absolutely anything. There were so many times where the defense would get an interception or just turn the ball over at the 40-yard line, and the Colts would get 0 points. 0. It was bad. So, maybe I'm being a little too harsh on him for the situation he has. But it does not excuse the drops and the fumbles. That needs to be cleaned up. So, Spot Track. They have Pittman's market value at $18.4 million. They think a 4-year, $73.6 million deal for Pitt. That's their market value. That's their prediction for the contract. I think 4 years, 73.6 is a little much. I think, I'd actually be able to deal with it, especially if he plays really well, becomes a really good receiver. Now, he is a good receiver still. We just haven't seen that next step yet, and that's what we've been waiting to see. I don't really want to pay a player big sums of money to bank on that next step, because nothing is guaranteed in this league. We all know that. So I think $18.4 million, it's a little over what I said I think he's worth. I think he's a very solid receiver, and I think he's maybe 15 and 16 are a little low. Maybe 17. I think 17, maybe 16 and a half, 17 and a half. That's the sweet spot for me with Pittman. That is the sweet spot. So if he's paid 4 years between 16 and a half to 17 and a half million, beautiful. That's perfect. That's good. Because he's being paid like a solid receiver. Not a top 10 elite guy, but he's being paid as a very good receiver and, as as a solid number one receiver in an offense that really still needs it. So, with all this being said, I think Alec Pierce is going to have a year. Watch out for Alec Pierce in 2023. So the next one. We know Jonathan Taylor has to be paid. The obvious questions are there. He's a running back. Should you pay him top of the line market? Should you pay him big time money? Because we've seen guys like Ezekiel Elliott and Todd Gurley get paid big sums of money. And they wasted their money basically, because Zeke, right after he got paid, he was horrible. Fumbling machine, injured. Todd Gurley, he had a knee issue, and that was kind of reckless by the Rams. They knew he already had a destroyed knee, yet they paid him that sum of money. I think it was 5 or 6 years. It was a lengthy contract as well. Jonathan Taylor, he has a lot of tread on the tires from Wisconsin, and these last few years, the Colts have ran him a lot as well. But, and yeah, he hasn't missed a practice, a game, anything in his football career up until last year. Sprained the ankle, out a few games, came back, re-injured the ankle, was out for the rest of the season. And then he did end up having an ankle surgery. Did not participate in OTAs. I expect the Colts to be being cautious. I believe he will be there for training camp. I think he'll be ready for training camp. He'll be ready to go. I think he would have been able to participate in OTAs, just playing it safe. Just saying, hey, take this extra precautionary step. He's a running back. You gotta take that into account. Don't overwork him. Keep him fresh for the season. So should the Colts pay him a lot? Considering he's such a big part of this offense and can help Anthony Richardson's development in a huge way, I say re-sign him. I say $13 million a year. I don't see the problem with that. Yeah, it is definitely a risk. It's a running back. It doesn't matter who you're paying. It doesn't matter who you're giving a contract extension to. Running backs just have that more rich history of really these big contracts just not working out. But I think this is absolutely worth the risk, especially considering Anthony Richardson, your rookie quarterback, is under his rookie deal. And this gives you the opportunity to help him in his development by having an elite running back in the backfield. Whether he's helped, if you get 2 elite years out of Taylor out of this out of a 4-year contract, I say awesome, incredible. You helped Anthony Richardson develop. If he has 2 elite years, Anthony Richardson develops into a solid quarterback, I think it is a win. Even if he is not on the team the last 2 years of the contract. I say the same thing with Pittman. But, if you pay Pittman, chances are he's not going to be gone after 2 years. He's going to be there for 4 years. I mean, both of these guys could be there and play at pretty high levels for all 4 years. It seems like the Colts like to give out 4-year contracts. They don't really like to push it. But, honestly, I think you should absolutely pay Jonathan Taylor what he wants at a considerable, at a reasonable price point. I think $13 million is fine over 4 years. Absolutely. And the same thing with Pittman, right? I should have mentioned this with Pittman. It's very important to have, even though Pittman hasn't been a top 10 receiver, he's been reliable. He's been solid. Last year, did struggle with some catch issues, some fumbles, but I think that was just kind of the whole, situation. Getting to him, having new quarterbacks for 4 or 5 games, that doesn't help. But I think having that reliable target for Anthony Richardson over his development is incredibly important. Yeah, I think Alec Pierce is going to show up, but we don't really know if he's going to take that next step. As I said, you can't bank on it. Nothing's guaranteed in the NFL. So at least if you re-sign Pittman, yeah, you're going to have him for this year as well. But if you re-sign Pittman, it's going to help Anthony Richardson have a reliable, big-time target, big frame. As you already have Jelani Woods and some big-time tight ends, I think re-signing Pittman, having Pittman for majority of, if not all of Anthony Richardson's rookie contract would be crucial to his development, having that reliable target. I think that's what Bryce Young is missing over in Carolina. I think, he was injured. And it seems once running backs get injured, it's just a domino effect. It just continues to get worse. But you have to take a risk. And I think the rewards outweigh. I think the reward outweighs the risk. It's a big risk, but I think what you can potentially get from it is much more valuable. Much more valuable. So, considering you're not going to be paying Anthony Richardson big-time money in a couple of years yet, go for it. Go for it. Pay JT and pay Pittman. So, these are some of the running backs at the top being paid top money, which is what JT is expected to get. Whether it's this offseason, the middle of the season, next offseason, don't know. Ezekiel Elliott. He's not at the top right now. At the time, he got a 15-year contract. He is an incredible running back, just outstanding. This is one of those situations where they paid him tons of money. It was not good. It was not good whatsoever. Waste of, I think it was 4 or 5. I think it was a 4-year deal, $60 million, or a 5-year, $75. It was a big contract. It was a lot of money. But these other guys here, Dalvin Cook, 12.6 a year. Derrick Henry, 12.5. Nick Chubb, 12 a year. I think Taylor would accept 13 a year. I don't see a problem with that at all. Like I already mentioned, my previous reasons. I don't see a problem with offering Jonathan Taylor a 4-year, $13 million contract. He might not be able to get better than that elsewhere. Now, the Colts aren't going to, and Chris Ballard isn't going to offer him $15 million a year. They know better. So, yes, I think both of these guys should be re-signed, to answer your question. This is why you watch this video. This is why I made this video. I wanted to talk why and some of the reasons why the Colts should re-sign these guys. They both can play huge roles in Anthony Richardson's development. And that has to be priceless to you as an organization in which you've had 37, 38-year-old quarterbacks over the last 3 years. One was a mystery, but ultimately turned out to be crap. You got to take these chances, and you have to do whatever you need to do to make sure that Anthony Richardson, the most athletic quarterback coming out of college, in the modern era of the NFL, the National Football League. Yes, re-sign both of these guys. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, put that post notification bell on so you don't miss any future videos. Give me your thoughts in the comment section below. I would love to hear your thoughts, what you think the Colts should do. Should they re-sign both of these guys? Should they re-sign one or the other? I want to hear your guys' analysis and your point of view. So, this is JDW Sports Talk Show. Signing off.